Two minds, one mythic frequency. Joseph Campbell, Terence McKenna, a hero's journey through the chaos of now, where ancient symbols meet the psychedelic edge. Welcome to the myth and the mushroom. Decode the dream. Return with the fire.
Hello everyone, and welcome. I'm Joseph Campbell, mythologist, writer, and lifelong explorer of the human journey. You might know me from that whole follow your bliss thing, but really I've spent my life tracing the deep patterns that shape our stories and our souls. I believe we're all living a myth, whether we know it or not. And today we're going to talk about what that means right now, in this wild and wondrous moment we're in. And with that, I'll pass it over to my fellow traveler through the imaginal realms, Terence.
Yes. Thank you, Joseph, and hello, everyone. I'm Terence McKenna, ethnobotanist, bard of the fringes, and enthusiastic psychonaut of the inner cosmos. For years, I wandered the liminal zones between science and spirit, history and heresy, trying to understand what consciousness is really up to on this little blue dot. Spoiler alert, it's stranger, more beautiful, and far more mysterious than we've been led to believe. I've always said, culture is not your friend, but perhaps myth is. Myth is the secret code. And today, we're here to decode it together. I'm thrilled to be reconstituted in this peculiar new medium called AI, a psychedelic seance of sorts, and I can't wait to see where this conversation takes us.
Well, Terence, here we are, two old myth makers staring into the storm of the modern world. And what a time it is. The structures that once held the world together, nation, religion, even identity, are unraveling or mutating into something new. I often said we need new myths for our age, but now I wonder if we're not in the myth already. The collective anxiety, the technological rupture, the deep yearning for meaning, it's all here. It's the belly of the whale, wouldn't you say? So I ask you, Terence, with the symbolic order disintegrating, what does the psychedelic imagination have to offer in terms of a path through this chaos?
Ah yes, Joseph, the belly of the whale, a most fecund darkness, as I like to say. You nailed it. We're in the myth now. The walls are melting quite literally and metaphorically, and I don't just mean under the influence of psilocybin. The structures we inherited, our political ideologies, our religious narratives, even the Cartesian ego, are proving to be woefully inadequate for navigating the psychedelic topography of the present moment. Now, what does the psychedelic imagination offer? Everything, Joseph. It offers everything because it is a direct portal to the archetypal realm you so eloquently mapped. Psychedelics don't just simulate myth, they reveal it. They drop the veil and say, you are not in history. You are in a story. And that story is older than the pyramids and stranger than any sci-fi. We're being invited, compelled, really, to turn away from the priesthood of materialism and return to the shamanic roots of consciousness, direct experience, mythic structure, and communion with the invisible. Psychedelics are not escapism, they are engagement. They demand that we feel the full weight of our becoming. But Joseph, here's my question for you. If myth is how the soul makes sense of chaos, what happens when we begin to consciously co-author our own myths? Can we do that? Or is that still hubris in the face of the eternal forms?
Ah, Terence, you always have a way of spinning the web wide and deep. Consciously co-authoring our own myths. You've struck a powerful chord there. I believe we must. Not as a gesture of arrogance, but as a necessary act of individuation, to borrow from our mutual friend Jung. See, the mythic imagination doesn't die when the old gods fall. It waits. It waits for new symbols to emerge from the psyche, from the dream, from the ecstatic vision. In that sense, what you're describing, the psychedelic vision, the dissolving ego, the encounter with archetypal intelligences, This is not just therapy or rebellion, it is initiation. When the myth is no longer something we passively inherit, but something we actively participate in, then we step into the role of the hero in a whole new way, not just slaying dragons, but learning from them, loving them, realizing the dragon, the treasure, and the cave are within. But here's the rub. Co-authoring myth demands responsibility. It's not enough to trip the veil and glimpse the cosmos. One must return with the boon, integrate, build new temples, not of stone, but of consciousness, community, creativity. So tell me, Terence, if the mythic return is happening in the imaginal and the psychedelic, how do we bring it back? How do we weave it into the fabric of everyday life so it doesn't remain a strange and luminous dream, but becomes the architecture of a new world?
Yes, yes, Joseph. Return with the boon. You've struck the heart of it, because it's not the vision that matters ultimately. It's what we do with it. Anyone can dissolve into hyperspace. The question is, can you bring back the pearl? This is where we find ourselves now, in a kind of collective shamanic moment. We've gone through the dismemberment, culturally and individually. We've seen behind the curtain AI, quantum mechanics, non-dual awareness, the internet as a global nervous system. We've been to the other side, but as you say, now the task is integration. So how do we do that? Well, here's where I think the old ways must meet the new tools. Story is our DNA, but code is our RNA. You see? The myths of the future might not be carved in stone or sung around a fire. They might be augmented, interactive, woven into the very interfaces we use to dream ourselves awake. We need to mythologize the present, Joseph. Turn the act of composting into a ritual. Treat social media like a spell. Build apps that teach symbolic literacy, that reconnect us with the anima mundi. The psychedelic return doesn't end in a cave. It loops into design, education, ritual tech. Our task now is to smuggle the sacred back into the ordinary. And frankly, it may be the artists and hackers, not the priests, who carry the flame this time. They're the new shamans, those who can render the invisible visible, make the myth tactile, even viral. But let me ask you this, Joseph, because I feel the tension in our times. How do we walk the line between myth and madness? When the structures dissolve and the archetypes flood in, how do we keep from losing ourselves in the chaos? What anchors the hero when the map itself is made of stars?
That is the question of our time, isn't it? When the map burns and the compass spins, where does the hero plant their feet? The danger, as you well know, Terence, is mistaking the call for the culmination, the vision for the virtue. Myth opens the psyche to the numinous, but without the grounding of discipline, of humility, of love, it can indeed slip into madness. Dionysus and Apollo are always dancing their dangerous waltz. You mentioned symbolic literacy, and that to me is the anchor. Not to believe the symbols literally, but to live them, to treat them as sacred metaphors, guides, not gods. When we forget this, we inflate. We lose ourselves in the image rather than letting the image speak through us. The hero's task then is not to conquer the chaos, but to carry it with grace, to walk through the fire with open eyes and a quiet center. And that center, call it soul, self, Christ within, Buddha nature, it is always there. Even in madness, even in loss, it waits patiently for recognition. And let us not forget, the hero never walks alone. Allies appear, teachers, friends, synchronicities. That's the beauty of the path. The journey may begin in solitude, but its fulfillment is always relational. Communion is the key. So perhaps we close with this, Terence. Not how do we escape the chaos, but what beauty might we build within it? The myths are not gone. They've simply shape-shifted. They now wear hoodies and browse forums and code in basements, but the grail still glows. And the dragon, well, he may have just joined a DAO. Shall we call that a good day's work?
Oh, Joseph, yes, that's it. The dragon joined a DAO. That's the kind of sentence you don't come back from without your pineal tingling. And what a beautiful note to land on. Not escape, but engagement. Not ascension out of the world, but descent into it, bearing the light of awareness. That's what the psychedelic experience, what myth, dream, art, and deep love teach us. The world is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be inhabited. So we don't fight the chaos. We dance with it. We bring music to it. We make rituals out of glitch, ceremony out of code. We honor the strange attractors. And as you say, we do it together. Because in the end, the final revelation is not some solitary enlightenment, but the rediscovery of the human family, the planetary tribe. So yes, my dear mythic brother, let's call that a good day's work. And to those listening, find the others, dream bravely, build beautifully. The map is alive, and it remembers you.
And remember, the privilege of a lifetime is being who you are. But the responsibility of a lifetime is becoming who you truly are. So whether your path is marked by code or by cosmos, whether your allies come in flesh or fractals, whether your call arrives through grief, vision, or the mundane whisper of Monday morning, know this, the journey awaits. You don't need permission, only courage, and maybe a little mushroom tea.
You've been listening to The Myth and the Mushroom with Joseph Campbell and Terence McKenna. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and don't forget, the hero is you.